Okay, I see by the clock that it's 4 p.m. and I see that in the room and online, we have a quorum of the City Council, City of Hillsboro present. So I will call the meeting to order. First item up on our agenda this afternoon is our approval of our consent agenda. And under the first item there is vouchers totaling $345,021.26. Did everyone receive copies of the vouchers? Yes. Were there any questions regarding the vouchers? Next up, we had minutes from our May 6, 2025 regular council meeting. Did everyone receive copies of the minutes? Were there any questions or corrections regarding the minutes? Next, we have purchase of water materials for the Orchard Ridge project totaling $28,803.05. Any comment there, Mr. Stiles?
No, it's basic equipment. I got a list there on the PO of kind of everything that's going in there. Some of that is will be an eligible cost that they will pay us back for, but a lot of it ends up getting waived as part of our policy.
Okay. Next, we have two appointments. The first is the appointment of Jared Yauk to fill an unexpired term of Ron Motz on the Housing Authority Board. And lastly, the appointment of Joseph Moreno to fill the unexpired term of Alicia Lopez, also on the Housing Authority Board. Were there any questions regarding the consent agenda?
I do have one. Matt, on that first page of the payable check register, what is the K-State surplus property?
Kansas State surplus property. So
thank you.
Yeah,
I misread it as K-State. I was like, what do we okay.
No, Kansas State surplus property. So it was can't remember what exactly it was right off the top of my head, but it was a purchase of a piece of used equipment that was from KDOT.
All right, thank you. My brain auto-filled it, sorry.
That's okay.
All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Councilman Bai moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Jorgensen seconds. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And we are now coming to our first opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the council? Mr. Gary Hilliard and Brenda Hilliard are here. If you would, could you come up here to the podium for us, please? So we can see you on the camera and make sure you get recorded and all that good stuff. No.
Okay, I'm Gary Hilliard. Been around like 15, 16 years. Seems like a lot shorter. Some people make it longer. Anyway, I have an opportunity and I've already started. It's a community program to help people in this community to take care of themselves and their property, to help them figure out ways to pay their bills. And it's a handed forward type of a project. I'm going to call it Hands of Grace or HOG. And at this point right now, I haven't turned it into a 501(c) because I don't know if that's necessary. I receive no salary. My wife receives no salary. All money that has been invested in the trucks, trailers, the lawnmowers, and the other equipment has been purchased. We have an individual that made some donations, and one guy donated the truck. My son donated the use of the trailer and a large walk-behind lawnmower. My wife and I purchased a 52-inch lawnmower from the 2S Power here in town. What I'm recommending and asking the city that the reason for it is because some people in the community that for some reason or another are not able to take care of their lawns or pay their bills on time. And I seen at one time that the city several years ago, and I was trying to think how to help with this. I think someone said that the city was gonna charge them $600 to come in and mow their yard and clean it up, because it would take, the city's, workforce plus the equipment that we pay for in the city and our taxes. And I thought to myself, there has got to be a better way for us to do this as a community. And my idea was, which I am starting on, now, and I got the equipment. I have a few more things to do, but I'm starting now, to do this. What we're doing is, we're gonna mow people's yards, but they're gonna be held accountable for helping us. They have to clean the yard up. We may help them do that, but they have to get out there. If they physically able, just even walk across the room, they're physically able to pick up a piece of trash or stick. And so that's what they're gonna have to do in order to receive services from us. When it comes to the city, that the city says, hey, we're gonna charge you $600 to get your grass cut. At that time, the city would like to, they could call us, as long as it's not 5 acres or something ridiculous. You can call us, and if you want to sponsorship, you can pay us $50 and we will mow that yard and have it done, and we will maintain it once a month. Once a month, we will go and cut that yard for the $50 for 3 months. And then on the other hand, the people, once they pay it forward, those that we help, they will help us on the next project. Volunteer to come help other people, so they maybe broke, but they still can help themselves and help the community. So it's a pay it forward, hands in hand together as a community, rather than feeling put upon. They can also feel like they are helping, even though they don't have anything to offer but physicalness, or even just showing up and say, hey guys, you need some water, hand out water to people that volunteer and work. No one will be getting paid. On the other hand, there are people in the city that have come to light. I've been there with my family. He's coming out of prison. He can't find a job. He has nothing to do. So this is kind of taken up on myself and my wife, that I will pay them a small wage, probably around $10 an hour, maybe to work 4 hours for me. But then to also, if they would volunteer to work 2 more hours for free. In these projects, it's their way of paying it forward also, and helping them to be responsible for their lives. We're here to build our city up. We're not here to tear it down. And some people are offended when they can't pay their bills and the city says, hey, we're going to tack $60 onto your bill because you're late. I don't know what the fee is, but this is an example. I came in a while back and I have done it, pay some bills. I was trying to find out. And I asked the lady, I says, since these people can't pay their bill, is it possible if I pay their bills, would you knock off the late charge because we're paying it? She says, I cannot do that. Well, that puts me in a trap because the late fee is really large for a person that can't afford to even pay the bills. So we're just stacking fire on fire instead of water on fire. And I say we need to stack water on fire by, if this organization comes and tells you we are responsible for their bill on this month, that late fee be waived for my organization only. It's not everybody, but it's just those that need help, and then we see that are qualified and are willing to do something besides please or thank you. It's them being responsible for themselves and helping Hillsboro be a better community to live in for people that don't make the average wage that most people do. Some people that are stuck in unemployment. We have a widow in her, she's not a widow, but her husband is sick. And I know that it's going to come up that she can't do the lawn care. She's not physically able to do that. And we're going to look for projects like that to help them along so that she can deal with her sick husband. He's young. And so she has to deal with her sick husband now, where before she didn't. Now she has to go to a work more full-time, like in order just to survive. And she has a home in the community, they pay taxes, and they have a nice house. So it's not free. So this is kind of what my idea is. I'm following forward with it, but I was asking for the city to think about this. And those who are Christians, I ask you to pray about this, to see what you or I or us together can do for our community here in Hillsboro. I want to make this a place that I want to be a part of making this place a peaceful place for all people, regardless of financial status, regardless of anything that people feel discriminated against. Some people feel, oh, I only make $500 a week, or I only make 150 a week. While I'm on SSI, and I make $600 a month. I can't do anything. I need help. I need help. The entitlement programs are over. It's time for them to get off their butts and help. And that's my program. What?
So what's the ask that you're giving to the city right now is waive the $50 late fee? And was there did I miss something else, Gary?
No, and when we come in, I need to know who's habitual asker. You know, because we need to go with them in a different direction. And if we do pay their bills, there's going to be some responsibility toward us doing that. It's not going to be a handout. They're going to do something, whether it's to come and help clean the next house up. They're going to pay it forward. And if they can't pay it forward, then they stay where they're at and deal with it themselves. We're not here to help people that are honestly trying to be tricky because they've learned how to use the system. I've been there, I've done that. I know how. When I was strung out on drugs, I used the system to take care of my family because I wasn't strong enough to. And I don't do any of that. I have not had assistance for years and years. I paid it forward. I did what I had to do to change. And now I'm here to help other people who may be in the same spot or even different. Because I know you can do it because I've been there.
Andrew, what concerns would we have, in some of this privacy wise? I mean, I think we need to be a little concerned about that.
You'd have to find a way, which I think is possible. You'd have to find a way to get permission from the person for the city to release the information about their prior, utility history, which of course you could probably do if you're offering to pay a bill for them, right? So the city would probably need to make sure that they had permission to release that information.
Go ahead, Ronald.
And as far as the late fee goes, Matt, or Karen, because I don't know off the top of my head, when the bill is issued, I know that there's a time frame before that late fee actually kicks in. So could it be, we can take their information. I don't know if you guys have like a flyer or anything or.
Yeah, this is all coming.
Okay,
Yeah,
and we could, and we could put that in their bill. Would that be something that we could do, like include that information or in one of the letters that we send out that we put on their door?
Yeah, if you got the letter, that's a disconnect letter.
Yeah.
So that's would have gotten a delinquency notice too. So everything's due the 15th, and then on the 16th we run delinquencies, and that applies the late charge. So it's 10%. And then if you get to the end of the month and still haven't made a payment arrangement or haven't paid, then you get the red letter. It's $20, $25 for the red letter delivery, and then if we do end up shutting you off, it's $25 to reconnect. So that's kind of how it's structured. And I mean, you could. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we'd have to work it out on kind of a case by case basis. With this, I mean, it's an honorable thing to do. It's just we'd have to kind of. Especially if there's some desire for more information about an account or that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Before, they wouldn't give me any information, but how they handled it was they says, well, there's someone that has a shut off notice, and this is how much they owe. And I wouldn't know who I was paying, but some of the people that I did do this for, I knew who they were because I knew how much their bills were. And they didn't give me the information, but I knew.
Yeah.
So that's I'm okay with that. That secrecy, I don't need to know.
Sure.
It's not necessary.
Yeah.
Like you say, if you want to put that down there as a kind of self-help program for them and put it in there also, say this is something that you might want to try.
Sure.
Yeah,
we've referred people. I mean, the Ministerial Alliance pays bills. Salvation Army pays some bills, and there's other resources that we refer people to. We can include that on that. I assume we just have them. Well, whenever you get out information, we will be able to include that.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yes.
I think the thing that intrigues me is starting to tie in with the updated strategic plan direction that we're going with, because our current strategic plan has three primary goals in alphabetical order: childcare, housing, and workforce. And, we've made significant progress on the first two of those, especially with Mennonite housing coming in, but, and the childcare center about to go online. But in the updated strategic direction, we are feeling like we need to do a better job of code enforcement. It's not about code enforcement as much as making our community a more habitable place and a more aesthetically pleasing place to live. And you're talking about things that fall right square in the middle of that, keeping lawns trimmed up, picked up, et cetera, and so there's a whole piece of that's coming. And, I could see this, fitting in very well with the direction that we're trying to go. And so I commend you for what you're doing, Gary. And I think it's going to be a big help to a lot of people and for sure the city. So I think what we need to do is figure out how we want, what it looks like for the city to help out with this, and figure out, if there's anything we can do on this, the late fee part of it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd like to explore that a little further.
Yeah.
Maybe at a next meeting, we could come back with some framework. And Gary, if you've given your contact information so that Matt and his team can get back in touch with you, we have any questions, we're going to try to figure it out.
And also something I didn't mention, I read my notes. My son, he lives in Peabody, and he's the one that donated trailer to use, and he's looking for another one that's more appropriate. And he's also donated use of the walk behind lawnmower. And so he thinks that there is a need in Peabody. So this will not be the only town that we will take care of. We want to take care of the communities that we are capable of taking care of. We don't want to overload and not be able to help consistently. So that's also one of the goals. He's for that, and I am too. So we think that we live here, he lives there, and he's all in. And my other son is very curious about it. And so he's asking figures and numbers. So I know what he's up to. So I think with God's grace, with the hands of grace, which will be called HOG, all things.
Branding's important.
It's easy to remember, it's kind of funny, but that's what it's all about. That's what I'm here for. And I'm always looking for critiques, improvement I can change. I'm not stuck on stupid. Because I'm getting older, you gotta change. You have to grow to times where you get left behind, whether you like it or not. I have a cell phone, which I never wanted, but I'm glad I have it now. So it took me years, but I'm here.
Any questions for Gary?
Are you just doing grass, or are you thinking maybe down the road, maybe snow removal?
I thought about snow
Okay.
removal, but I did buy a bunch of chainsaws. I've been buying chainsaws. I know there's limbs down, trees that need to be taken out. These large trees, I won't mess with them. But trees that have fallen down on the ground already, I'm not climbing anything. But my son has a tree service.
Nice.
And so he's kind of got an ear on some of that stuff too. So yeah, and like I say, the people that we do this to, they come and help drag branches and load them up, and we take them out to the burn pit. I've been buying equipment for a couple of years now, so I've got a lot of stuff, and I'm going to need a few more things, but it's slow, but it's consistently moving forward. We don't want to just zoom because it won't last. We have to take it as pace. I still work, so I won't be doing this. I'll probably work at least 4 days a week, and I'll take one day and dedicate it just to taking care of those things for now.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Gary. We
Okay.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Gary.
Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
And Brenda, thanks for supporting that bunch.
Absolutely.
Y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys.
Is there any other public comment at this time? Well, I have to say that was refreshing, so appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to close the first opportunity for public comment. and we're gonna move right into um, spring storm Hinnon. And I was teasing Crystal before the meeting. I said, I didn't even hear the sirens go off before the Ranson financial tornado hit our agenda and ripped it right in half. But it's always good to see you, Crystal, and so
Glad to be here.
we're gonna turn, we have several items for you to help us with today, so I'm gonna turn the floor over to you.
Sounds great. Do you want to just tell me what's on your list?
Sure, let's start
Probably the
with let's always start with item 1. How's that?
easiest. Sounds great.
Well, and then we'll work through to item 5, but item 1 is approval of pay app number 11 for Weeds, I'm assuming construction,
Yes, this will be
Yeah.
for the childcare center.
pending approval from the H4C board. So I'm assuming that invoice has not been approved by the board.
We're having a board meeting tomorrow, I think. No, I don't think so.
Call me if you do.
Okay.
So is there anything regarding pay app number 11 that needs explanation?
I don't think so. This one's pretty small. What we're gonna end up doing though, it sounds like, is pay app 12 is much larger and it's actually retainage. So the contract retainage is 10%. And so what we would end up doing is paying the retainage amount and then holding this until there's a construction issue with a pad, an HVAC pad. And so they would want to hold on to this check as retainage until that portion of that warranty work gets finished.
Yes. So what we'd like for the motion to be is to approve pay app number 11 pending the H4C board approval and have the city hold the check until the checklist and all construction is finalized. There's a little bit of the checklist that still needs to be done. There was an issue with the concrete pad that Matt just mentioned. We had a big meeting yesterday and went over everything. So they are aware that we are holding this check until they're completely finished. We're gonna keep their feet to the fire. We want to make sure that the construction company is taking care of our project. So that is our recommended motion.
Any questions on that? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion as stated by Ms. Hinnon.
I'll make that motion.
Councilman By moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Wilkins seconds. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's
Jared,
go
you
to,
need me to send that to you? What all needs to be in that motion?
I don't know if Danielle has it, so just send it to
Yeah.
both of us. That'd be great.
Make sure that we get it
Sounds
correct
good.
in there.
okay, we're gonna move on to item 2 now, which is approval of pay app number 12 for Weens pending approval from the H4C board. I'm assuming with the additional similar wording.
Yes, similar wording. So for this one, generally when we do construction, once we get towards the end of the project, the contingency is lowered. That way, it just makes it a little easier for the contractor to recoup their money and that kind of stuff. It wasn't lowered at all during this project. So right now their pay app is $280,000. So yesterday during our meeting, and this is one of the things they're going to talk about at the board, is paying all or almost all of the contingency. So, or not the contingency, retention, sorry, brain on, of the retention. So that's one thing they're gonna discuss. But we would like to go ahead and have the city's approval for the mayor to sign it, pending the H4C board's approval.
Any questions?
So this would really be the last one then, since it's
Yes,
taking it to 0.
yes, there shouldn't be anything else after this for the pay apps. The punch list and the cement is all on Weens Construction for them to go and finish what the problems that arise during this.
Okay, somebody care to make the motion?
I'll make the motion to approve pay app number 12 pending approval from the H4C board.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Councilman Jorgensen seconds. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now the most
Give a quick
important one.
update real quick.
Yes,
Just a quick update on the childcare. So we are at the very tail end of this, which is very exciting. The next things that'll happen with CDBG is I'll have the final state monitoring. They come out twice a year or twice during a project. They've already come out once. They will come out at the end, go through the rest of the paperwork. They'll ask for more questions, look at all of our copies of checks, copies of bills, everything. They'll walk through the project also. Once they go ahead and clear us, then we will have a public hearing. It's called a performance public hearing. Basically just talks about what our application stated and then what actually happened with our project. And then we can close out the project. So we're at the tail end of this one.
very good. Third item, approval of the invoice from Ranson Financial for grant administration in the amount of $12,000.
This will be the remainder of our fee. Since we are at the tail end of this, we'll have our bill, our last bill, and the architect's last bill to move forward with the closeout.
Any questions regarding the bill for Ranson Financial? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to authorize payment of the Ranson Financial Grant Administration invoice for $12,000.
Make that motion.
Councilman By moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Wilkins seconds. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we go to 4, which is consideration of bids for the 126 North Main Street CDBG-CR project.
So our commercial rehab also through CDBG at 126 Main Street. Eric Driggers is here with us. He is the owner. If you have any questions for him this evening. We also have Kendra from BG Consultants. She's on the architecture team. We opened bids for 126 and Clint Hibbs, he is the lead architect, has written the letter. Did they get a copy of the letter?
Yep, we got a copy of the letter and the bid tab.
A recommendation letter. The team has approved this. The Driggers have approved what they would like to move forward with, which is the base bid plus alternates 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There could be also an update to 10 once we dig into a little bit of demo and find out some information. So first, you guys have any questions about the bid tab or the bid opening or any questions for the owner or architect team?
There were 4 bids, which we were happy with.
Yeah.
I think you never know, especially on a historic project like that. It's a little tough.
And we had great turnout for the walkthrough. Great turnout. So that's always exciting.
Crystal rattled off the full set of alternates. There were 10 total.
10 total, yeah.
And so kind of split that project out so that there's different things, but there's specific replacements of windows, things like that. So
And they're all listed in your bid tab up here.
kind of hard. It's
So you'll be
small,
able
but
to, yeah. It
I
is
have to
small.
zoom it in, but yeah, it is all there. And so Eric and Tammy have selected the alternates that they're interested in and pursuing. So we're just here to approve the bid and the alternates as part of the CDBG part.
Yes, since only cities and counties, just a reminder, cities and counties are the only ones that can apply for CDBG. So technically you're the owner of the grant and that's why you guys have to make all the motions. Of course, everything I bring to you is already approved by our architecture team and the owners before I bring them to you. So this should go very smoothly. So what we're looking for tonight is just a motion to approve the base bid and alternates 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which should be on your, I'm reading it directly from Okay, perfect. So that's the motion we're looking
Click
for,
them.
to approve the bid from NF Construction.
That's, Nelson Fowles, they're out of Marion.
Yes.
It's $461,500 total with all the base bid and alternates.
Was there any thoughts regarding there's quite a spread, obviously, between these bids. I mean, from the lowest to the highest, and even quite honestly, to the next lowest bid. Is there any thoughts about how these folks could come in this much lower?
So we have personally worked with all of these construction companies on previous projects before. Some of it might be that their general that they had on site had different questions or concerns, and it may be that some of the people that went on site priced it slightly differently, just on what they might be more concerned on if they start opening things up, and they find something different that they're trying to pad, not necessarily pad their bid per se, but to add the costs for concerns that they may already have. We did not feel that there was a significant concern on some of these as far as the questions, and we also got more questions from some of these contractors directly to us clarifying bids than others. So I think part of it was just what vendors that they had for their subcontractors bidding back to them for like the woodworking versus them having a specific team that they're comfortable working with, and they might have been more expensive. So on our end, we didn't have that significant of a concern specifically with NF being below on what they bid. We did find it interesting that they thought that doing the kitchen epoxy as being a deduct versus a added cost is essentially they probably just didn't want to deal with other issues on potentially leveling out the floor for putting in LVT, and they felt putting in epoxy, they had a cost-effective way that they personally feel that they can handle it. So as an architecture team, we didn't feel that it was a significant concern.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I would accept a motion to accept, I guess, is that what we're doing? Accepting the bid or approving the bid?
Accepting the bid, or, well, I don't know. Do you need it to say approving?
Either one's fine.
Okay. But you're doing the base bid and the alternates, the selected alternates, 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Mouthful. But
In the total amount of $461,500.
yeah, not to exceed $461,500.
Okay, somebody care to make that
I'll
motion?
make the motion from what Matt just stated.
Okay,
Awesome.
okay, we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Pete goes Karen. Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let the record reflect that Councilman McCarty voted aye. Thank you. Okay, and the fifth item, which is a proclamation declaring June 2025 as Fair Housing Month.
So with CDBG, we have to have a fair housing activity every year that we have an open CDBG. This year, we have decided to move forward with the proclamation. Do you have a copy of that to read out loud?
I can get you one. Yeah.
No, I didn't print it. Sorry, I should have.
No, it's in the thing. I can print you one if you want.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, thank you.
While he's printing that, I'll just give you a quick update about 126, how we're moving forward. The architecture team will put together contracts and start that process. We have paperwork process with CDBG that we have to start. Once everything is set, then we will have a pre-construction meeting, which has to be held for CDBG requirements. That way everybody gets on the same page for construction. We talk about things like how we're moving forward, our time frame, and how we're expecting to start progress meetings, how we're gonna talk about pay apps and that we bring them to the city, and we'll explain that to the contractor, but that'll be set up before we even start construction. I'll keep you guys apprised of how everything goes.
And while we're waiting, are there any questions for Eric since he's here regarding what the intent or plans or future state looks like regarding 126 North Main?
Do you have anything you want to add?
I mean, so this will get us full usage of the main floor. It'll be complete with this. So right now we have partial usage is what I would describe it.
Mhm.
This will complete the kitchen, which we're gonna have like it's kind of like a catering take or bring-in kitchen. So like people could potluck style, church style kitchen access. And then obviously we are really hoping for community excitement around this. Like we want it to be rented. We want it to be, right now we've already had some baby showers. We had a graduation party, Christmas party, those types of things is what our goal would be. There's a nonprofit that uses it for a Sunday church service and prayer meetings too. So it's already being some use there.
What about the basement piece?
Yeah.
Is
So there's a lot that like we've struggled code wise there, like just what we could all do down there. This will secure it. It'll be waterproof air. I mean, we're taking care of that. And then what can be done as far as occupancy, we're still kind of questioning, but this will at least lock. There's open window wells that are going to get done with this. That was one of the alternates. We're going to secure it.
Very good. Okay. Any other questions for Eric?
No, thanks for doing all that.
Yeah.
Great.
So we have a proclamation declaring the month of June 2025 Fair Housing Month. And I will read said proclamation. Whereas the Congress of the United States passed the Civil Rights Act of 1968, of which Title VIII declared that the law of the land would now guarantee the rights of equal housing opportunity, and whereas the city of Hillsboro, Kansas is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all, and today many realty companies and associations support fair housing laws, and whereas the fair housing groups in the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development have, over the years, received thousands of complaints of illegal housing discrimination and found too many that have proved upon investigation to be violations of the fair housing laws. And whereas equal housing opportunity is a condition of life in our city that can and should be achieved, I, Lou Thurston, Mayor of the City of Hillsboro, Kansas, on behalf of its citizens, do hereby proclaim the month of June as Fair Housing Month and express the hope that this year's observance will promote fair housing practices throughout the city. Dated this 20th day of May, 2025. And I'm not sure, do we need a motion to adopt the proclamation? I don't think so. I think that's one of the few things that the mayor just gets to do.
Yeah, just as long as you write it in your minutes that you had done your proclamation. That way you can look back on it.
With pride.
With pride, that's
Yes.
right. And next year we'll have a whole different activity.
All right.
Well, that was a lot of things for me. Do you guys have any questions from me? If you think of anything, your administration staff knows how to get a hold of me, so feel free to get a hold of me and let me know.
Like I said, don't expect the sirens to go off ahead of Crystal showing up next time.
That's right.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you. Good to see
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you, guys.
Did you ever get your, I know at one point we wanted to have one of our state legislators wanted to have a picture with the big check and Eric and everybody. Did that?
Not yet, no.
We haven't had that. Do we still have the big check somewhere?
We do, yeah.
Very good. All right.
we do.
So I guess stand by for a
Sorry, we'll do it.
photograph, you know.
Is it in here? Can we
Yeah.
take a picture?
Right now.
I mean, Eric's here.
Sure.
Come on. Shaved up.
All right.
Oh, you look great.
You wanna get gussied up? We can do it.
Well, can we,
It's up to you.
do an executive session so that Eric can get himself all?
Yeah.
Do you wanna do it? I've got.
Sure, if it's, you know, you got Crystal here and Eric here, so. And we got the architects here, so. And the big check.
That's right.
But when does it get endorsed to one of us though?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
They trusted me to drive it home from Toledo.
It doesn't quite fit in the drop box at the bank, though. Don't go through the
Do you
drive.
recall what the lieutenant governor's words were as he gave us the check?
Spend it quickly.
Go fast.
Yep, go fast.
Go fast.
Fast.
So, all right. Come on up, guys.
We got money.
Yeah. Get the ladies in here. Come on.
I have to hold it forward because I can't. I'm too
Let's do
short.
this.
There you
Let's do
go.
this. You're on the short end. I'll go right here.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's try one more. All right. Got it.
Very good.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, yeah, it was Representative Mike King that wanted to
Yeah, Mike King was.
get a photo op, so I guess we'll do that again, maybe Eric sometime.
Maybe next time he's in town.
Maybe we can do it
No.
down in front of 126 North Main, actually.
Yeah, that'd be a nice picture.
Especially since it's a good photo op.
Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you
guys
very
for your
much.
support.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
he's gonna be in town, or maybe at the ribbon cutting would be fun too.
well, we could do it
We can
then.
bring the check
He's gonna
and
be in town for coffee with the mayor in June.
Okay, do we have that
I
secured?
think so.
Okay,
can you send the information in an email?
Sure.
Perfect, thank you. We can wait.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the much anticipated every year annual department head report from Morgan Marler.
Is it really much anticipated?
It
It is. Did you bring the visual
Because
aids?
usually, Morgan, you always tease us by having something come up that moves your presentation ahead, you know, down the months. So- Yeah, that's great. Morgan Marler, head of our water and sewer departments.
Hold on, let me.
Down and pass it around.
I'm gonna let you drive this morning.
Me?
Think it can. Think I will. Yeah. Yep, should. Right
Another
here.
one? Oh.
Band chip.
I do.
These are suitable for framing, by the way.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
So I think I might have got two. Here you go.
That would
There
be-
you go.
Thank you. Y'all ready?
Ready?
I need one of those. Good. Let me get this copy of this one. Oh,
Yeah.
This one's, yeah.
The first thing I wanted to go over was kind of a review of employees. We've had a few, employees get their licensure this year. Larry Pulaski still is doing a really good job doing maintenance for us, buildings and, mowing of the different types of facilities that we have. Aiden Brammer, and Larry's been here for 2 years. Aiden Brammer has been working for the Water and Wastewater Department for 1 year. He recently acquired his Class 1 KDHE water operator's license. And he's also been mostly on his own operating the water treatment plant under supervision for about a year. And is doing a great job with that. Caleb Spencer, he's been with the city for 4 years and he is now a licensed water and wastewater operator. for both of our facilities to that level that we require. He's now got a Class 3 water license and a Class 1 wastewater license. He's completed several California State University courses to obtain that certification. And then he also obtained electric safety training certification. Then on the bottom there, it's just kind of a blurb that I wanted to give to you in case you get some questions from your constituents. Governor Kelly has recently declared 39 counties in a warning status and 63 counties in a watch status for emergency drought proclamation. And Marion County is one of those. We are in a drought warning status. So usually when that hits, state and local news, we sometimes have constituents asking about that. So now on to the presentation.
Morgan,
Yeah.
if you don't mind,
Yeah.
do we anticipate any conservation requirements from the state as a result of that warning?
That's kind of a hard question to answer. The Kansas Water Office deals mainly in shuffling the water through the system. And so that is the organization that would enact that type of proclamation on our reservoir. And that sometimes has a lot to do with what's going on downstream with us as well. So that's tea leaves that I can't really read.
Fair enough.
I think in the 25 years I've been here, I think we have had imposed restrictions on 2 occasions.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I believe the city already has an ordinance on how to follow that process and how to notify the customers and
Sure do.
okay, so the first thing I wanted to kind of update you on is the Peabody Aid projects that we've done this year. I've got several slides. We've assisted them with almost 100 hours since I was here last time. Their crews are doing a great job. We spend a lot of time doing educational stuff with them and training, and they've got a great group of guys working there, and it's just been a real joy to work with them. This is one project that we did. This is the base of their water tower. They had a company that came in and did full restoration of the water tower, but they didn't, the contract said that they didn't have to do anything below ground, and there was 3 feet of the tower vault below the ground. And so this had been leaking for quite some time. And the top right picture is what the fix looks like. That was just a receptacle where there was a pressure transducer and then communications for the SCADA system. And so they blew a hole in the tower and we went and helped them fix that up. So that was exciting. We've done both sewer projects and water projects with them. Sometimes some puppy projects.
Found a puppy.
Yeah. Just fun things, fun water things. The next thing, we came, I can't remember if we came and talked to you directly about a filter console upgrade project that we wanted to do, or if I mentioned that in last year's presentation. But we started that in around September, late September, early October of last year, and we just finished that project up. We had a filter console project that we wanted to do ourselves instead of contracting with Microcom. Their bid came in at 98,000, and we were able to get this done at around 36,000.
Is this the one that Elcon helped with? Okay.
Yeah. Matt Gehring from Elcon did the entirety of this project.
That's awesome.
Well, the most of it. They built the further on. I have some other pictures of this, but they built the actual console out of stainless steel. Caleb had the brilliant idea to coat that stainless steel with a clear coat body paint so that it wouldn't deteriorate in the plant like the rest of our stainless steel. And so we did that. And then he spent a lot of time doing the programming of the PLCs that you see here and then running wire through the plant. There's some of the pictures there in the left-hand picture up at the top. That is what the console looks like. And then the main control cabinet there. That main control cabinet was placed in our mezzanine and it has all of the controls. You can see it in the very far right corner. That's up in the mezzanine and they're pulling wire into that control cabinet. And then I forgot to get a picture of this, but Caleb did a really great job of engineering, designing and building an air compression system that takes air from the outside, it filters it, and then that cabinet is pressurized to a very low PSI to keep positive pressure on the inside so that moisture and chlorine does not get into that box and deteriorate that all of the controls. So we've been operating with the new filter console for, I don't know, maybe a month now as we finished up the project, and it works great. And we're really happy with the design. We've had some unexpected consequences of that were kind of a surprise, a happy surprise. So we have better quality coming out of the filters because the filter effluent valves don't travel large distances. He did the programming, so they just kind of barely open, barely close to keep those levels full. And so that has had a great benefit on our compliance turbidity numbers. And we weren't expecting that. It was just kind of a surprise. So. Matt, help me. Oh, wait. I still can't. Oh, there we go. Okay, more pictures. That's Matt on the left, getting the wires up into the filter console. And then the guys bringing down the old microcom console. Right-hand pictures, more wires. What am I doing wrong?
I don't know.
Are you sure I can be in control?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you kind of rolled over to my other screen.
Okay, there we
There
go.
you go.
Same thing, pulling wires up into the console, and then on the right, Larry's head is cut off there. We had him pulling all of the internal components out of the microcom panel so that we can salvage those and use those for other projects before we got rid of that big case there. So that was a big project. It took a lot longer, I think, than everybody anticipated. But it was Matt's first programming and project like this, and I think he's quite pleased with the success of it. And we saved a lot of money by doing this ourselves. And one of the problems that we were having with Microcom was that they just wanted to install old technology. They wanted to install the same type of stuff that they installed in 2024. And there's much better, more diverse components that you can put in now that will last a little bit longer. And we weren't really getting what we wanted out of them for that project. And so, I think Matt just happened to be there one day when we were talking about it. He wanted to take a stab at it, and it seems to have worked out for us. This is inside our chemical feed room. We did a big project with our $1 million forgivable grant that we received a couple of years ago. And we went in ahead of time, moved out all of the chemicals, did some cleanup, pulled a bunch of stuff off the walls. And then after the project is complete, we're going to sandblast and paint all of that. And this is Caleb doing some of that stuff, getting the items cleared out of there before they started construction. Along with the other project that we did with Matt Gehring, we upgraded some of those panels. Those metal ones were installed in 2004. The corrosion has just really gotten to them. So he upgraded some of these control boxes in the plant with the plastic composite units to help with the corrosion. During the Adams Street project, we did a few things in conjunction with the street going in. The water line didn't get installed until after the street was installed. And so we had a couple of crossings at intersections where in-house we moved the valve clusters back behind the curb so that when the water line construction crew got on site, they could just tie into those so that we didn't have to cut the street in order to decommission those valves and move things around. We anticipate we saved the city about $75,000 on that project by doing that ourselves, which allowed the city to do a little bit more concrete work and expand the scope of the project. So Caleb did a great job of doing engineering on the valve clusters and getting them moved out. He put all of that together. He organized the crews, and the street department and the electric department helped with those types of projects. And what you're looking at here is down on B in Adams. We had to tie into an existing valve that was placed there, I don't know, maybe 2002, 2003 by another contractor. And we tied into that, and then we all went home, and that 5:15, the whole thing blew up. So this is the water leak that ensued after that tie-in. And once we got back down in there, we discovered that the contractors who installed that valve did not install the grip rings in 2002, 2003. And so, we repaired the water leak, and then clear on the right, you can see the big concrete the big concrete piece that Aiden is putting in there. We installed that thrust block so that that whole section wouldn't move and blow off of that again. And we made a new policy that anytime we're connecting into somebody else's, another contractor's appurtenances, that we inspect what they've done before we clean it up. So that was the lesson learned for us there. This is also the Adams Street project. There ended up being a water leak this is Glenn Teeson's driveway. And so this is Caleb and Mason, is that Weston? Caleb and Weston with the streets department helping the contractors find where the water leak is and the service lines for that project. These are some more fun water leak, water distribution projects. This is at the school. Contractors had a line as they were installing transformer pad, right?
Conduit for the transformers, yeah.
Yeah. So this is just recently. This is Preston Hodges on the right. He works for Core and Main, and he's our meter guru. We had him come out and help us for a couple of hours on a couple of big meters that we had some problems with. He did some training with us and a refresher course on meter programming and pulling data off, that sort of thing. A couple more projects. Birch Street. Oh, the Birch Street thing was kind of interesting. Johnson's came in October. Johnson's, can't remember the rest of the name. Johnson's Services, thank you, LLC, came in to do sewer cammering. And when they were on Birch Street, they saw in the sewer lines, they saw a pretty consistent, steady stream of water. We were able to pull a sample off that, and we found chlorine residual in it. So we knew that we had a water leak somewhere, but we couldn't really determine where it was because everything was saturated and the whole block was saturated. And so we kind of waited for it to arrive to the surface, and we ended up fixing that in March, and it ended up being a service tap. But I don't know how long it had been leaking because it was going directly into the sewer system and the storm drain, and it was taking that least path of resistance. So that I've never seen that before. That was kind of interesting. We helped the golf course with a leak, and then over here on the right, we helped the rural water district a couple of times through the year do some emergency repairs, and they were doing fiber boring out in the country. We came to you last year about doing Caleb and I came to you last year about doing a special project down at the primary lift station. This lift station is the one that collects all of the sewage from the lift station, all of the other lift stations in town. And there was quite a bit of deterioration on that. And we wanted to, instead of replacing it, we wanted to get it lined. We hired Johnson's to come in and line that. We love working with Johnson's because when they're here, the crew spend a lot of time training and teaching. And so we walk away with, a little bit more education when they're here as well. So the top left picture, you can see they're starting the cleanup job of the lift station. There was a liner that was installed by Mayor's Specialty Services out of Goddard about 12 or 13 years ago that was failing. And so they spent a good 2 or 3 days just cleaning that lift station to get all of the debris out of there, get the old liner out of there. They had some stubborn areas. During that time, we bypassed that lift station, which was kind of scary for us. We got a big 6-inch pump and we pumped from one manhole on one side to the other manhole on the other side and pumped it to the lagoons. That was something that we had never done before. And it worked out fine. I think the whole project took about a week to do. And that orange color is the actual liner that they installed. It's a really hard, thick liner, and they claim that it has about an 80-year life expectancy on it. I don't know where my mouse is. Can I get my bifocals?
There goes Matt. Lost the mouse.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Stop moving your hand around, geez.
Right. The left-hand picture is them cleaning out that nasty old lift station. And then on the right, you can see them installing the liners. So that improved that quite a bit. We've also we've continued to work on our I&I, which is inflow and infiltration in our sewer mains. This on the left-hand picture is a picture of a grit pit. And the color is us, Kayla putting in dye to trace where that grit pit goes into a manhole downstream. So we know that as it rains upon the area by AMPI, that the gutters are coming to this grit pit and then going straight to the manhole. So this is one fix that we'll do. We'll fill that in and eliminate that. But in our attempts to eliminate infiltration into the sewer system, these are the types of projects that we really like to target because that removes a lot of unnecessary water going into our lift stations and out to the lagoons. The very far right picture is out at the sewer lagoons. This is a project we're going to have to tackle this year. This is part of our concrete liner that is heaving. So that's going to be a pretty big project for us because since it has heaved, all of that sewage from the sewer lagoons is going right back down into the ground there. So that's going to be a tricky project for us. I did want to spend a little bit of time on sewer stuff. There are two things I would spend more time on was basically the sewer system and then water quality, testing out the reservoir. And the sewer system, most everybody knows that it's there, but very few people understand how it works. That's why I handed a map out for you guys to take a look at as we go through this. We basically have three types of pipe in our system. We have the clay pipe, which is on the left, PVC, and then cast iron pipe. We have very little cast iron pipe, a lot of clay pipe that's really old. The clay pipe is what separates and breaks the taps going into the pipe, kind of shift around or fall into the pipe over time. So we have a lot of infiltration in the clay pipe. And historically, Hillsboro has done quite a few lining projects on that type of pipe in town. Of course, newer pipe, when we go in and replace pipe, we're replacing with PVC, which is in the middle. I can't be trusted with this mouse. There it is. Okay, so this is a screenshot of one of the videos from Johnson's the last time they came in a camera. Up at the very top, if I could get the mouse up there, right up in that area, that's water coming into the pipe. And then these areas here at the bottom are where the bottom of the pipe is just kind of cracked and crushed and kind of upheaving. So there's a lot of room for water intrusion in there, groundwater, water from the rain coming from the gutters, that sort of thing. So these are the types of lines when we come to you and ask you if we can do a lining project. It's these types of clay pipe lines that have these types of deterioration in them. These are the types of lines that we're asking to line. I wanted to give you a highlight of what's going on in the sewer system. This is a map of our entire system. The little tiny red dots are all of the manholes that we have in town. The round circles that you see occasionally. Get this mouse. like that. That's a lift station. The big round circles are the lift stations. And then over here, this is the primary lift station. So basically from the north going to the south, we have a number of lift stations that pump the sewage all the way down south to the primary lift station. That's situated down at the old sewer plant. And then from there, that primary lift station pumps it all the way out east of town to the lagoons. The waste sits in there for about 120 days, goes through the different cells in the lagoons, and then is pumped all the way back to the site at the sewer plant. And then that water is released into the stream there. Of course, we take lots of samples to test the water quality of that sewage lagoon water going back into the creeks and the creek there. The dark blue lines and then the lines that have been highlighted blue, those are all lining projects that happened prior to 2023 when our department took over the sewer department. And then the lines that are the lime green, those are the ones that we have lined since we started in 2023. And then there are some that are highlighted with the orange marker. And those are our most concerning lines now. Those are our priority lines as identified by Johnson's when they came and did camera work, cleaning and camera work. And so those are the remaining sewer lines that we're going to want to kind of peck away at over the next year or two. We have two lift stations, one at the industrial park and the primary lift station. We've been having some preliminary discussions with Matt about maybe upgrading those or doing a rehab project on that. We're still gathering our information on those. So at some point in the next month or so, we're going to be coming to you and talking to you about doing some work at those. This is the primary lift station. You can see the condition that those are in. And really the amount of money that we would really have to sink into these to rehab them might not be money well spent. So we're looking at those options right now. We just last week made emergency repair the primary breakers. Caleb did this. The top picture is the breaker situation at the primary lift station. And then the picture down below is his repair on that. We had some jankety wires that weren't working correctly and a breaker that had fallen off and just also all sorts of deterioration. And those things never happen at the opportune moment, right? So this is kind of his work product there on the bottom that you can take a look at. Water production. Water quality events with the reservoir. I gave you a handout of that. We've talked about water quality and iron and manganese in the reservoir water quite a bit over the years when I've been here. And I think this is either our 4th or 5th year with the Kansas Biological Survey, and then they partner with other groups. Some college students do the testing, that sort of thing. This is a picture of Ted Harris. He's the PhD guy that organizes all of this and helps with the KDHE funding. And he's the one who has been taking the data and studying it and helping us with our iron and manganese problems. The pictures on the right are just some beakers from sitting underneath the raw water faucet during the day when that water is coming in. This is not a very good picture. I just took a screenshot of my computer screen just so you can see some of the data that comes in for us on a daily basis. The top picture is a 1 day span, then a 1 week span, and a 1 month span. And then the picture that I printed out for you today, that is this entire last week. And basically, they have some buoys that are a little ways out from the face of the dam. If you're driving by on the dam, you can see them floating out there. And those buoys pull minute by minute data. Up on the top left-hand corner, that list of things clear on the left, there are 50 parameters that those things are testing for us on a minute by minute basis. when we first started this arrangement for testing the reservoir water quality, we were just pulling some samples, and freezing them, and they come and pick them up. And then in the fall, they test those. And then the next season, after they got all that data, they were kind of excited about. So the next season, we did it every day. You know, we pulled those samples every day. And then we got all of that data. And then he was able to take the data to KDHE and expand the project. So over the course of 5 years, this has started pretty small and has gradually worked out to this point where we have these 52 parameters that we can look at on a minute to minute basis. And last year was the first year that we had this program to do this. And it really helped us figure out what was going on in the reservoir and when the events occur, because it's all a limnological, biological thing that's going on in the reservoir, dependent on how much iron and manganese is coming in from the reservoir. How much nitrogen and phosphorus is coming in, the blue-green algae blooms, how much oxygen is in the water, those types of things. So as we've gone through the course of this, data coming in on a daily basis, we're able to see what's coming our way. And we know that depending on the amount of flow coming from the reservoir, our average is about 12 hours time from the time the water comes through the dam, through our pump house, into town. And then we have another 12 hours through our upflow clarifiers. And then we've got the water going to the filters. And so the problem has always been that we don't know when we're going to get the stuff. And then all of a sudden it's at the filters and it's black and it looks like paint and we can't do anything with it. And then it's really, really difficult for us to remove that for our customers. You know, we don't want to put that out in the distribution system, and we want to make sure that we are in compliance with KDHE and EPA regulations. Okay. So here are just some samples. Another thing that we've been doing is Aiden has been working on doing some chemical experiments for filter cleaning. For years and years and years, we've been putting the iron and manganese through those filters. And so iron and manganese is sticking to our anthracite media. And it's difficult to remove. It sticks there. Just air scouring and backwashing doesn't work. And so we've kind of done a deep dive on doing some catalytic reactions with different chemicals to do filter media cleansing. And this is just a snapshot that I took on the lab bench one day when he was working on that with the different types of catalytic reactions, adjusting the pH for the catalyst reaction to occur. And we're just kind of testing those things out to see which one will work best for us at the plant to remove that iron and manganese from the water. So here, this one removed a lot of iron, the yellow color. And so this one removed a lot of iron and manganese. And so we're just kind of playing around with that. Aiden's done a really good job on experimentation and research on that. And because of course we want to try and clean that media up at a minimal cost versus just replacing all of the media. That would be about $75,000 or $85,000 just to replace the media. So we're going to go down this path a little bit until we can figure that out and maybe be successful. The other thing that we have done in conjunction with the iron and manganese issues that we've had out of the reservoir is started dosing a permanganate chemical out of the reservoir. It's a really nasty chemical. It's pretty dangerous. If you have any type of drip or leak or anything, it just goes everywhere. And then it's difficult because it's hard to clean up. It's dangerous to handle. If it touches paper towels, it catches on fire. It's just ridiculous. So Aiden and Caleb designed and built this application. This is our chemical feed tank that the chemical has in it. And then the chemical comes out of the tank. And you can see right here, it's coming out of the tank and it goes into this red tote. Well, they designed the system. The chemical feed pump is inside that red tote and it's completely sealed up. And then it pulls the chemical out of the tote. There's also right here, this little blue thing, that's an automatic solenoid valve. There's a moisture sensor. That's what this is on the left. So inside this tote, they've installed a moisture sensor that will automatically sense a leak, and then it'll shut off the solenoid valve, and it will prevent any further leaking from that tote. That tote costs about $3,000 to fill too. It's a very, very expensive chemical. It's like $4.75 a pound. So anything we lose is expensive. Where's my mouse? There we go. Here are different pictures of it. This is what it looks like if you're looking at the tote from the top down, another view of it. And then this is the control box over here that Caleb engineered, designed, and then built, that controls the functions of all of that. And eventually that will be tied in so that it will alert us. We have the wiring right there in that box. It will eventually alert us at the plant if we have a leak. So we'll have some remote access. And this is those guys building it.
Kids at the science fair.
Yeah, it's at the science fair. So I was pretty proud of them for that design and that build. They did a great job, and that's been in service for about 2 months, and we haven't really had a lot of problems for our first prototype on that. So that's great. This is the other part of the iron and manganese problem and the $1 million forgivable loan. This project was engineered by Mike Younger with EBH. What they're doing is installing this massive T between the two clarifiers. This project was only supposed to take 3 or 4 days, and it ended up taking about 3 weeks because that baby was heavy and they had a lot of difficulty getting it up there. And then there were some situational issues that they had because some of the pipes weren't square versus the new pipes that were square. So that ended up being kind of a doozy of a project. This is also chlorine dioxide. This is part of that forgivable loan program. We've been utilizing chlorine dioxide for the last 2 years, and that has helped us battle the iron and manganese. It doesn't help us as much as I was hoping that it would. I was hoping that that was going to be our magic bullet, but I'm hoping that with the data from the Kansas Biological Survey and us learning more about the reservoir on a minute-to-minute basis, that the tools that we now have will help us elevate that response and be able to handle those iron and manganese events that come in. This is a pretty important topic to me. I think that I'm thinking that KDHE is probably going to wind down the funding on this project. And so, I asked Matt to write a letter of support for it, and hopefully we can continue it for the next year or two and continue studying the Marion Reservoir and how we can better treat the water. If we are not able to do that, I'm afraid that our next step is probably going to have to be to go to ozone treatment, and that's a very, very expensive. So we really want to do what we can for the citizens of Hillsboro to really exhaust what we're doing here and kind of fine tune it before we take that huge step with ozone. It's just a really high capital expenditure cost, and then you have the ongoing electrical costs with it, and so I feel like for us, this is the best bet for us. I pulled some slides off of Harris's presentation that he did to the state. And he came and gave us that presentation. That was the picture that you saw of him sitting at the desk on the computer earlier. But I wanted to show you a couple of things on here while we're talking about this. And, I know that we're going to be coming back in the future to you guys to help support this program and help, maybe push it at the state level. When you're talking to your representatives and your senators, I always want you to add, reservoir water quality into the discussion along with economic development, because, I think sometimes this aspect of it is lost or may not even reach them, and they don't really understand how costly it is for small municipalities to take on these challenges. So I just wanted to go, all of those dots are different places where they're pulling samples. Some of them are passive inflow events. The big red dot down there at the right-hand corner, that's at the base of the dam where they're pulling the buoy data every day. Here's Caleb out there setting the buoys with them. He always thinks that's fun going out on the boat with all the college kids to do science stuff. This is just kind of a quick diagram of what the buoys look like if you drive by and you look at them. They have self-wiping mechanisms, so if they kind of get fouled, they have a wiper that wipes them so they can continue to pull the data. Last year we had 3 main events, and so some of the data that we're going to look at beyond this photo are representative of these 3 main events that we're having. These are dates, these are events where we really could not treat the full extent of the iron and manganese coming into the plant. And you know, we had iron and manganese throughout the whole summertime. We even had 6 weeks from January, all through January and the first 2 weeks of February where we had iron and manganese. But those mechanisms of chemical feed dosing that we have installed are enough for us to handle that. But these are 3 specific events where we couldn't handle what was coming in with maximum chemical addition. And so this group really focused on these 3 events and looking at the data and what was going on with the reservoir, because these are the ones that cost us a lot of money. These are the ones where we have employees working around the clock. We're backwashing the filters every hour. We're using a lot of chemicals. So these are very, very expensive for us. And if we can have a better idea of when they're coming in, when they're going to hit us, then we can prepare for those and maybe cut down on some of those exponential costs. So these 3 columns here in his slide presentation, these represent those 3 events. And so we went through with him, you know, and he explained the different things that were going on in the reservoir. Sulfur is a really big problem that I didn't realize that we had until last year, when we had really rotten egg smell coming in. And then, you know, so we add sulfur to our testing program. And we realized that a couple times during the summer when other events are happening at the same time, sulfur is being pulled out of the sediment of the reservoir. And sulfur is the first thing that all of the oxidants work on. So if all of the oxidants are working just on sulfur, they can't work on the iron and the manganese and all of those things. So that was a big revelation for us. Can we move this big thing, Matt? How do I do that?
We can. Don't touch it. Let me grab it.
Let's do the bottom of it. Yeah, right there. That's good. So one of the things that we track is the dissolved oxygen at the bottom, at the interface where the water hits the sediment. And we know that when the dissolved oxygen rate gets down here at the very bottom of the graph, we know that once it starts bottoming out like that, we've got 12 hours before that gets to our plant. So the things that prevent that from happening are lots of wind. If we get rain that comes in, anything that kind of shakes up the reservoir, that helps prevent that lowering of the dissolved oxygen at that interface. So when it's really hot and sunny and the reservoir is clear, then the algae species start blooming and they start using up the oxygen in the water, and then the oxygen levels plummet. And then at that interface where the sediment is, there's no more oxygen. And so there's kind of an anaerobic anoxic zone there. And the iron and manganese is pulled out of that sediment and then becomes involved in the water that's coming into our treatment plant. So this whole chart goes from April through October. And, you know, you can kind of see those big, heavy events. Those all line up with those pictures that we looked at before. A couple more summer bloom events. The probes on the buoys will also measure chlorophyll and the specific type of chlorophyll that comes off of a different type of cyanobacteria. So it's kind of species dependent. So we can see as the blooms are happening in the reservoir, we can see what that's doing to the different, you know, chemistry going on in the reservoir. And that's really important for us to track too. A lot of times, you're looking at the water at the reservoir and you don't really see a bloom. Most of the summer, that bloom hovered underneath the surface of the water 2 or 3 feet. So it didn't look nearly as bad. So if, in years past, if we're just driving on the face of the dam and we're taking a look out there and we're just basing our judgment on what we see, this just blows all of that out of the water. We didn't see anything because it was 2 or 3 feet below the surface. So those probes are picking up that data for us and giving us a better idea of how that those blooms are growing and dying and what they're doing to the reservoir. Oh, this stupid mouse.
Okay.
This just plots all of the nutrients that came in, nitrogen, phosphorus, iron and manganese, sulfur, through the course of the season last year. And then this is all data plotted from what we've done from 2021 through 2024. So we have a good look of, historical data and what's going on, like, over the course of time and how different rain events impact the reservoir. Dissolved oxygen again, those are 2 of our big events. They hit the bottom there and then we start freaking out. And then the last 2 slides, this is the probes up at the Cottonwood and French Creek. This is data from 2020 through 2024 at those locations. And so we have a good idea of what is actually coming into the reservoir from those 2 tributaries when we're talking about phosphorus and nitrogen. And phosphorus and nitrogen from fertilizer is that's the magic bullet that drives all of this in the reservoir. French Creek, pretty similar. And, when we have big peaks like this is probably a rain event when we've got lots of rainfall and lots of rain coming in through those tributaries. That's it.
When you say magic bullet, you mean causing?
Yep. The blue-green algae will thrive at a certain ratio of phosphorus to nitrogen. And so when that is a perfect ratio between those 2, then that's when the blue-green algae will really thrive and, start blooming and cause problems.
It seems like we're learning more. I recall I think the very first year of being mayor, we held a water conference out at the Scout House, and you asked me to attend, and it was very educational. But the thing that I walked away from that, we had people from Washington, D.C., we had people from K-State, from Topeka, all over the place, and a lot of talk about blue-green algae. But I walked away from there with the experts basically going,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So it seems like we know a little bit more now.
Yeah, we do. And although I feel like every time we get to the point where we learn more, I feel like we know less about some things. So it's all one big process. And the last 2 years with this type of data has been really helpful with us at the plant. And so I'm very thankful to KDHE for funding that. And then also Ted Harris and his program and choosing Marion Reservoir to start this process. And I think that this will probably, catch on across the state and probably the nation and helping, figure out how to manage this. A lot of science. Any questions?
Questions for Morgan? Ron?
Question on your sewer chart here, the orange, you mentioned that was parts that you think are gonna need work.
Yeah,
How much,
these that are highlighted orange like that.
I guess, how much time do you think we have before, it needs to be?
When's D-Day?
Yeah.
Well, so far on all of those projects, we've prioritized, so even before we took over the sewer department, that team was prioritizing what was the worst and they were working on the worst. And we've been working on the worst and are kind of working our way around. Those are going to continue to seep water into our system. And fortunately and unfortunately, when we have a catastrophe in that kind of pipe, we don't have a big water main break and it's going everywhere. It kind of does it silently, right? And so really the way we learn when those things become a big problem is when we have a blockage and we can't get any more sewage through and we've got to dig down and cut a section out. We think that we have probably 3 or 4 years to get to the lining portion of some of those that we have on that list. There are areas where that clay pipe is really deteriorated. But then some sections of town where it's not quite so bad. Those are going to continue to stay on our lining project and our lining, process, and we'll probably continue to peck away at them at a little slower pace than what we did the last 2 years. We invested quite a bit of money in the last 2 years on those lining projects. And we were with those and the work that we did, like the picture where I showed the gutters coming into the thing and it was going into the manhole. Those things really, really reduced our inflow and infiltration to the point where we were able to have our consent decree removed. And we're no longer in a bind with KDHE on that. So
We're off the naughty list.
yeah, we're off the naughty list. So, we've really decreased that, and we can tell there's a huge decrease just by how often our lift stations run, during a rain event, that type of thing. So, one of the things that we want to do in the upcoming 18 months is maybe focus on the industrial lift station and the primary lift station. Those things are on their last legs. They're going to take a chunk of money. And we calculated that we spent 1,200 hours on the industrial lift station alone in 2024 and so far in 2025. So 1,200 hours is a really big investment on money for you all in wages. They're not quite at the end of their lifespan, but they've been used really hard in really horrible conditions. And so, they're the 2 lift stations that have deteriorated so significantly compared to the rest of them that were installed at the same time frame. So we kind of want to shift gears and maybe focus on those, get those remedied, and then maybe go back to a slower lining pace and give Matt some breather room on funding. So that's a huge answer to your question, Ronald, but did I answer?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Will you have any involvement with the Orchard Ridge project as far as, the infrastructure of water
Yeah.
sewer there?
We've been involved from the beginning of that, with input with the architects and the engineers and the design of that. We've recommended several changes, so that what they build lines up with what, our code is, and what our engineering design standards are for the city of Hillsboro. So we just had a pre-construction meeting. Was that last week?
Thursday.
Last Thursday. And we sat down with their team and we spent about an hour talking over those things. We placed the order for the appurtenances for the water meters. It sounds like we will be doing all of the water taps and running all of the service lines and setting all the meter cans, doing all of that during that project. They'll be doing the installation of the water and the wastewater mains, and we'll do the services for them as part of the agreement that you guys came up with. It's exciting, that project is.
Yeah.
You're all to be congratulated for making that happen.
Any other questions for Morgan? And I gotta tell you, Morgan, you gave us a lot of information, but
Yeah.
it's hard for me to believe that there are that many communities of our size that have the staff that we have in this area and the quality of the work and stepping out kind of outside of your day-to-day stuff to do projects to really help us save money. So you are to be congratulated, and your department as well.
Well,
We're proud that
Thank you.
you're keeping us safe and giving us good water to drink.
Thank you. I have to pass that on to Caleb and Aiden because they come up with a lot of the solutions, and they're 2 brilliant guys, and they like to work hard and they like a challenge, and they've been really a pleasure to work with. They've been a lot of fun to work with, and you're not afraid to do anything, so.
There you go. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thanks,
thank
guys.
you.
Sorry it was so long.
It's all right.
Thank you.
Good information.
Yeah, there's a test.
Chemistry. Chemistry.
Okay, that takes us to our business section of the meeting. And we have a couple items there. The first is Resolution 2025-07, supporting tax exempt municipal bonds. Mr. Stiles?
Yeah, thank you, sir. So this is actually just this has been sort of an advocacy position for the GFOA, KSGFOA is Kansas Governmental Finance Officers Association. So there's been a push at the federal level to get rid of the tax exemption on municipal bonds, which is really a critical tool for us and for a lot of other public entities, hospitals, schools, road, everything. It's about $3 trillion in infrastructure nationwide. And having lower cost of borrowing is really critical, especially when you're talking about use of governmental funds. So if they were to get rid of this, it would be about $800 billion in interest costs over the next 10 years. So what Resolution 2507 is, it's like I say, it's kind of a thing advocated by KSGFOA. Basically, all you're saying is, look, we appreciate that, the desire of the federal government to make changes and everything like that, but don't touch this because it's really critical for all the local governmental units. And they're, encouraging us to take this and move it on to our congressional representatives so that we can advocate for keeping these things in place. Like I say, it would be pretty significant impact directly to us, but of course, everybody else who uses this financing system as well. So we're just advocating approval of that resolution and then moving it on to our congressional delegation for an advocacy.
Is this based on them with the budget that's going on in DC now?
Yeah, trying to find money. And there's a couple other, it's more complicated than that, but yeah,
Right.
it's just something that seems to be kind of the ongoing targeting of local municipalities and our independence. So
I don't know how long tax exempt muni bonds have been around, but it's been a long time. And it's a big deal.
it would be a huge sea change if they were to get rid of that. So
This would fall under the big but not beautiful category.
big but not beautiful.
Any questions?
I did a lot of thinking on this, and after reading it and just working in my head about why the tax exempt bonds are very important. And I'm going to say some things, and I don't want you to correct me if I'm wrong on anything. So these bonds that we utilize in other communities, we utilize them when we don't, have the readily available funds for projects, correct? And so if the tax exempt portion of it is removed, it'll affect our ability to work on projects, right? Which means either those projects get further delayed, or potentially to get the money, we then have to probably do an increase of the mill levy, right? In order to get the funds more than
Yeah,
likely.
you'd have to, it would
Yeah.
increase your costs. So you'd have to
Yeah.
do something.
So I guess what I'm getting at here is, I just wanted to be on the record for, why I support this resolution is, in local government, and I think that extends to state and federal. I think one big push is to decrease the amount of tax burden that you have to do on your constituents. And when it comes to the local level and our mill levy, if by using these bonds will help us to further when we have to do an increase, then I will, then I support this. This is just a very useful tool for the cities, and I can understand the push to try to save money in places, but it seems like this will actually be costing in the long run based on the information that you gave. So I don't know, I just wanted to put it out there, just what I've been thinking and why this is important. And just, I don't know, I don't know, just kind of hit me.
Yeah.
I can't explain it any better other
No,
than,
fair.
yeah, it's just crazy. But yeah, and I fully support this resolution. So,
I think to your point, Ronald, it really becomes a matter of it just costs a certain amount of money to do things.
yeah.
And where do you want to shift the burden?
Mhm.
So at the federal level, do you want your constituents to feel good about you because you shifted the burden back down to state and local government? You know, the cost that's there anyway, no matter what. I mean, that's really what it amounts to.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's challenging. It's always challenging, you know, and then we have coming up a discussion of budget priorities
Mhm.
for this coming year. And, you know, it's always, that becomes the challenge, you know, where does the money come from?
Mhm.
You know, and I feel like we have done a creditable job in balancing our revenues, you know, across property tax, across sales tax, and across utility fees, you know, as a way of balancing that burden, you know, in a way that's as equitable and fair as we can make it, you know, really. But the challenge is still there, and
Yeah.
it's not going to get less challenging,
Yeah.
you know, going forward. So I appreciate your comments and appreciate your position.
Yeah, and you know, I just feel like we try to provide the best services possible, and it gets to a point to where it's either do we cut the services or do we increase,
Right.
you know, the
Oh, yeah.
levy? And you know, I just feel like if this resolution will help put some pressure at the federal level to have more conversations and just to think just a little bit deeper about, again, where they want to affect people, then I mean, I think we should be supporting this. And hopefully, other municipalities will do the same, and it can, you know, just get some discussion going, you know.
There are several that have been kind of pursuing this in one way or the other. There's been a lot of advocacy too,
Yeah.
but I know this actually came from the city of Goddard. They adapted theirs at GFOA's kind of direction or directive. So yeah, it's a huge deal. It will impact everybody.
Well, I can tell you that it's an issue with KPP,
Mhm.
as you know, and it's something that the American Public Power Association is very strongly advocating for as well. And so when I get the opportunity to go there this July for the legislative fly-in, I will be meeting with our legislators, our Kansas delegation, and certainly be taking this with me,
Yeah.
you know, as part of that, in addition to all the other supporting pieces. So, any other comments, questions? Hearing none, I would accept a motion to adopt resolution 2025-07, supporting tax exempt municipal bonds. Councilman Wilkins moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Jorgensen seconds. Is there any further
Just
discussion?
trying to get in on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mark.
Let Barney have it.
You're fine.
Hearing none, we'll poll the council. Councilman By,
Yes.
Councilman McCarty,
Yes.
Councilman Wilkins,
Yes.
Councilman Jorgensen.
Yes.
Okay, resolution 2025-07 is unanimously adopted. Mayor will sign. Next up is consideration of a proposal for stonemason work at the Bartle House. Mr. Stiles?
Okay, thank you, sir. So what you have here is so typically what we would do with something like this was if it was like solely our project, we would bid this out. This is an extremely particular set of skills that's needed to reconstruct a historic stone house. So we've been able to find one contractor in the state that actually does this work. And so he's provided us this bid for this, or the architect this bid for this service. So it's $150,000. One of the things I would note on here is that they're going to use the existing stone. They're anticipating having to buy more stone for this. And there also will need to be a performance bond on this, which is not stated on here. And so there may be a slight change in the cost depending on how that works out. We've asked the contractor to provide whatever, if there's going to be any additional change for that, but we have to have a performance bond because it's over $75,000. So this is all paid for with the donated money that's sitting in the Bartle Fund now. There's over 230,000 sitting at the Community Foundation that will pay for this. So it's not coming out of city funds specifically, but it is running through us. So they will have to have that performance bond. So we're wanting to get them moving forward. There's a lot of need to get them on the schedule. So what we're asking for is approval of this initial $150,000 with the understanding there may be additional costs with that performance bid or performance bond, excuse me, as it comes in.
So this is just kind of like a pass through, basically.
Yes. I mean, all the money is raised and sitting in the.
Sure.
It's not coming from tax dollars.
Right.
It is coming to us, so it's not technically, but yes, it is.
You wouldn't anticipate the performance bond getting it up to over the 230 that's
No,
saved.
no,
They're not that
no.
expensive.
No, I don't think so.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I would accept a motion to approve the proposal for stonemason work at the Bartle House in the amount of $150,000 with Thomas Gladback,
He's the architect.
Studio Gladback LC, excuse me.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Councilman By moves. Is there a second?
Give Barney an opportunity.
Okay, Councilman Wilkins seconds. Is there any further
I
discussion?
would note that the Thomas Gladback is the architect, but the stonemason is Professional Stone Masonry LLC.
Okay,
Just to correct that.
thank you. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. And now let's talk about 2026 budget priorities, Mr. Stiles.
So you had your science lesson. Are you ready for your economics discussion? Yeah, so I'll try to keep it relatively quick. That's because we've got some other business to tend to. I want to make sure that we can see it through or share. So we'll share that. Okay, so here is kind of the preliminary budget discussion. We're actually starting a little earlier than we normally do, because I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to talk about this throughout the year. I'm having trouble advancing. There we go. And we've got a couple things that aren't showing up for some reason. Well, anyway, you can kind of see how that breaks down on that, and of course you can look at your screen there too. So what actually ended up being assessed after the final property assessment was 178.799 mils. We came in actually under 40, which is the first time since 2013 that we've ever been under 40. So what that represents to the average taxpayer is that 22% of their bill came from us, the city. Biggest portion is always the county. And then the school district, they have 35% there. I would say that 20 mils of the school levy is from the state. It's a requirement from the state that gets levied. So it kind of goes into their fund to pay for other school stuff. So you can kind of see how that ends up looking, which ended up being 3.9 mils lower than the year before. So that's a good thing. How that breaks out. Again, this is the bolded one there is what we approved through the budget, and what ended up getting levied is in the parentheses there. So you can kind of see how that shook out as the final assessment came in. The estimate for Marion County ended up being about 5.5% lower than what the certified values were. So that's why we had the resulting change. So it was about 2.3 mils lower. So you actually gave everybody a tax cut that we didn't know we were going to give them. So that's good, I guess. The revenue neutral rate was 38.859. So we're actually getting kind of close to that. So if that's a priority for you guys, we could definitely look at hitting that this next year. How that all broke out by fund, this is what we're operating in right now, 12.5 million. You can see general fund is right here, but when you start adding up all the utility funds, we're kind of a utility company that happens to have a police department, fire department, and parks department. So it's just how that works is how it is. We have all the utilities, and that's where all the money is. Property tax impact. So we take the median home value, so they can kind of see what that is. 95,000 is what the average house is worth here in town, and the property tax bill is a little short of $2,000. Of that, 438 goes to the city, 800 goes to the county. The schools get their 677, and then everybody else. So extension, the state, they get theirs. It's actually a decrease from the year before of $12.77, which is good. Kind of looking at how the growth rates are. I take a compound annual growth rate. That's how I estimate that. So I'm estimating that we'll see an increase of about 4.5%. The year before we had a really high jump, it was almost 8%, between 24 and 25. So applying that, I can expect the assessed valuation to be somewhere around 24.6 million-ish. We won't get that number until July, basically. Well, sorry, June. We'll get it in June. We've already started to get some of the stuff from the county, but we don't have that one yet. I just want to highlight the value of public utilities too. The authority within the budget again is 7.3 million. So it's the biggest chunk when you add them all together, 60% of our expenditures. We also collectively transfer in about $862,000 to help support the general fund operations, debt obligations, economic development activities, and equipment reserves. So that's really the value of owning your utilities. That would, if we were to levy that as property tax, that would be another 36 mils of property tax we would have to levy. And so, owning your utilities, while it is, you do have a huge amount of money you have to put out for them. And, Morgan did an excellent and very thorough job of explaining how those things require capital investment. If you didn't have that, you'd be paying another 36 mils in property tax.
Wow.
Just to stay where we're at. That wouldn't, and that provides the things within the general fund and those debt obligations. So actively managing that thing really helps alleviate the costs, as the mayor mentioned. We can balance those things out, and we can make it a more equitable distribution for the cost of services. Because if you think about kind of how our tax base breaks down, we have some of our largest property tax people are in the industrial park, and they're not our electric customers, so they don't pay electric to us. We capture sewer and water from them, but we're primarily grabbing property tax from them. And then we have large amount of non-taxable property. So like Tabor College, for example, we capture only electrical, water, and sewer from them. And so that's how we are able to use that. That's the equity in the system. They're able to help pay for some of those things. They're also our largest user of fire department services. But they don't pay anything that would be directly related to that. They don't pay property tax. So, so that's kind of the equity in the system. It sounds a little, if you were thinking about it from a true government perspective, you would never use your utilities to support your other operations. You would separate them out as their own businesses. That's not the reality of how it is. It's never been that way in Hillsboro. And this is the value. And I just wanted to make that everybody aware so that you understood kind of what that looks like. And when we talk about, like in Public Power Week, the value of public power, there you go. They're contributing a nice chunk to that. So kind of thinking about organizational direction for the next year, we've been operating under the idea, let's try to reduce our costs through efficiency and changing services. So some of the things that we've done already, switching to K-Camp saved us $52,000 for the next year. So that's a big savings. We're also able to move our in-house safety program. That'll save us about $9,800 a year. We've used the KMET health plan to help control those costs. We're not anticipating a large increase from that. So we were able to kind of hold that down. And then transitioning, going to BSNA, which is it has a large upfront cost for our financial software, but over the long term, we end up saving about $200,000. So we're taking active steps to try to manage that and keep those things and, be as efficient as we can and try to save some money. We are navigating a ton of federal and economic uncertainty. It's just the way that this is where we're at. So we're having to navigate that. We want to support our strategic plan initiatives as we move into the next wave of those, what those look like. We can kind of talk about what that ends up looking like. I would prefer to continue, advocating for employees, cost of living adjustments, merit wage increases. Our people are our greatest asset. If we don't have good people and we don't pay them appropriately, they leave, which costs us more money in the end. And they're the thing that provides all the service. So if we don't have good people, we're not investing in our people, then we are playing from behind all the time. So prefer to keep, kind of make those investments. Trying to bring on more outside funding for projects right now. We've got about 3 million in outside fund. Well, we brought in about 3 million since 23. And that's just grants, everything we've been doing. I've got about 500,000 in pending, and that doesn't include the fire station request that we've got sitting at the legislature. So that's another 6 million. If we were able to get at least half of that to hit, that would be great because that expands our bandwidth, gives us outside money to do more projects. And a lot of that is tied directly to the strategic plan stuff. So I just want to make sure that we understand those things. That's kind of the general marching orders. From the utility side, we're working on capital improvements, capital equipment and facilities. Maureen mentioned a lot of things. We need to do some more stuff at the water plant. It's actually at the end of its life cycle. So we're kind of at some decision points with some of that stuff. She mentioned the lift station upgrades. We've been working on that. We've got a chunk of money budgeted for this year to do capital improvement projects, and I'll probably end up moving over or advocating to be moved over for those lift stations rather than doing more lining this year. We can put that off a little bit longer, but those lift stations are going to be a problem. Street department, they still need a single axle dump truck with the snow plow attachment spreader. That comes up every time it snows. Every time it snows, I get read this thing is going to fall apart. And it is bad. It's really bad. And it does need to be replaced. I know we've invested in a dump truck last year, but this one is specifically to handle that snowplow stuff. And I know that they were through the first 3 years I was here, it didn't snow. We didn't move any snow. And so it was kind of hard to advocate for that. But the last 2 years, we really had to do that. Next year, we're in line to replace our bucket truck, the small bucket truck. If you'll recall, a couple of years ago, we got on the list for 2026. So
That's coming
kind of crazy. Yeah, it's coming up.
Wow.
The EPA's got a water system restructuring assessment rule that's going into effect. So what that means is just a technical thing. Where if you're going to be doing some sort of major capital improvement project, you have to assess other opportunities. So what that really boils down to us for is, if they're going to invest in us, then we have to look at a regional system, some kind of regional thing. And so we've talked about the city of Marion maybe buying from us at some point. They're in worse position than we are on a capital perspective on their water plant. But we're not, more than 5 years behind them probably if we don't do anything. So that's going to come into effect. And what that looks like for us, I'm not sure yet, but we know that that's something that we're going to have to take into account, especially if we're looking for federal funding. Electrical rates, we just had a KPP rate study, and I forgot to put that in here for you guys to look at. They came in and gave us the rate, not rate study, the rate analysis that they do every year. So this is our flat rate. This is kind of where we're at. 13, almost 14 cents a kilowatt hour, and a base charge $17. We don't differentiate between industrial and residential customers. We are right in the middle of the pack as far as what that looks like compared to other rates across the state. We do have a feature in our ordinance right now. It's called the power cost adjustment. We've never used it as far as I can tell. What that is a feature that it's actually authorizes the city administrator to do basically a power shores up the costs. It kind of works like our energy cost adjustment from KPP, where if the power if we've paid more than we anticipated in power, then we can add a fee onto monthly bills in order to make ourselves whole on the electric side. Never used it. We could. It's something to think about. And demand charges was another thing that KPP brought up. Right now, we have that information within our metering system. We don't have any feature to charge that to people, but demand charges basically say, these are the peaks. You find where your demand charge is, and then you can apply different charges if there's somebody who's setting your peak for you, or make that power more expensive. At some point in the future, you're going to end up with time of use rates, which is really finite detail. So if you're turning on your air conditioner at 5 o'clock when the power is where demand is high, and that power will end up being more expensive. So it's a variable rate kind of system, which encourages people to use electricity in lower peak times. It's a conservation type thing. So those are things that are potential out there. You know, we need to think about maybe the power cost adjustment piece, and then water and sewer rates. We may need to do some more adjusting to those. I think kind of continually, and we look at those every November, and we're maybe looking at some more. Just depends on kind of the capital pieces of that. So that's a mouthful, but want to break it into the kind of the council priorities and talk to you guys. This is the first step in the budgeting process. Want to know where you're at on some of these things, or there's things we need to be thinking of that aren't included in there, are more important to you. You know, we want to look at revenue neutral rate. Is that something we want to look at? We don't know what it is yet, but you know, if that's the marching orders, you want us to cut taxes. I've never sat in a budget meeting in the 18 years I've been doing this and had a council member tell me we want to raise property taxes just because. Never once. So I'm not anticipating that coming out of your mouth, but one never knows. Like, you could surprise me. But yeah, I mean, usually it's let's try to make it as efficient as possible, and that's what we do every day. But want to open it up to that kind of conversation. What are the things that we want to see from you guys, or what you want to see from us? Excuse me.
You know, it's kind of like, oh, what's his name was here, public comment. Just the idea of wanting to clean up our city and make it look nicer. I mean, that to me just speaks to, like Lou said, our strategic plan. That's what I want to see come from the budget or from the city side anyway.
Yeah, I think the strategic plan is really the driver of answering that question. The significant thought and work that we're putting into there as we finalize those things I think would be a good focus on our priorities this next year.
You can have to agree. I mean, you know, we spend a lot of time on the strategic plan and just fine tuning it. And I mean, I think that should be our blueprint. I mean, of course, I'd always argue towards let's keep the R&R rate in mind, but at the same time, we do have to keep the quality of our services as well. And that's another like balancing act pretty much. So
To your point, Matt, you in the 8 years that I've been mayor, I've never had a citizen ask the city to do less.
Right.
I've had plenty people ask for us to do more.
yeah.
And, you know, I think in some areas we have done more. You know, we've stepped into things that may be a little bit unusual, you know, vis-a-vis bowling alley, for example. But at the same time, you know, it's all about quality of life issues. And I think that's really the direction we're talking about now as we move forward in our strategic plan, is addressing quality of life issues and making sure that this community is a place that it's a community of choice. It's a community that people will choose to want to be part of, you know, and I really appreciate somebody like a Gary Hilliard coming in and said, you know, I choose Hillsboro and I choose it so much that I want to step out and do something beyond, you know, what my normal requirement would be as a citizen, which is to keep my own property clean, pay taxes, pay my utilities, etc. And, you know, want to go out and help other people, and not just with a hand out, but a hand up, you know, which I really appreciate that approach. So yeah, you know, I think we have to keep that in mind, but we also have to face reality, which reality tells that we can't keep delivering the same product at the same price every year. And that, you know, some of the savings that we've been able to achieve efficiency wise through insurance and other things, you know, at some point we're going to kind of max those opportunities out, you know, so we just have to keep that in mind as well. It's again, it's that tightrope, it's that balance that we've got to walk. And so, yeah, we want to definitely keep I think in terms of, you know, are we looking for any kind of major tax increase? No. But what do we need to keep the momentum going, to keep our plans moving forward? Because, we don't want them to stall out either.
Yeah, I mean, all of us are sitting here because we're not here to make the town worse. We're here to keep it progressing and keep quality. And unfortunately, with rising prices, that does incur with not hitting the revenue neutral rate. So,
But I will make one final comment on this section. Finding the right partners to and I keep coming back to the partnership that we developed with TCW, and they came in and invested over $8 million in our community to provide a buried fiber to the premises gigabyte, network that whether you're a customer of TCT or TCW or not is beside the point. It's because they saw the kind of community and the vision that we had for Hillsboro. They felt like, hey, that's a place we want to be part of. We want to make that investment. And so, success breeds success. I strongly feel like that. And so we just need to keep pushing it forward, because I think what we're going to see is more and more people as these housing projects start. We're going to see more and more people taking looks at Hillsboro in ways that maybe they hadn't in the past. So I think that momentum can help, because at the end of the day, it's like I tell this high school students every year, the way for us to get out of our tax problem is to grow. More people sharing the burden that we have, because there's a certain amount of costs that are just there. And so the more people we can have, the less the burden per individual is.
Right.
And so that's how ultimately we're going to resolve, the future, is by growing this community. And again, we have to make sure that we're a community that people want to be part of.
Okay. Just a quick timeline here. So we're starting early this year. We're gonna have July 1st meeting. We'll review the basic initial stuff. I should have everything kind of knocked out as far as a draft there. 15th, we'll review that draft. We'll look at the R&R hearing. We have to have that done before the 20th, so we'll have to make a decision on that. That'll kind of be the big thing. And then you got two paths. You can either go down the R&R, or you can go, go with it, and that you follow more of a traditional, what the law has been in the past, where we get everything done before the end of August, or we have the revenue neutral rate exceeding things, and so we'll have to have another hearing, and that'll have both meetings in August being a review. We just put it on the agenda to review it in case there's somebody from the public. Hearing's got to be out there 10 days in advance, and so we'll have to kind of back out from there and see what that looks like. So, and then just to remind you, on the budgetary hearings, they do have to be printed in a newspaper. That'll be the Marion Record. So that's kind of how that's going to look. Yeah. So those are the quick version of what that looks like. Stop my share. No, I don't stop it. Sorry. Technical. There we go.
Okay. Anything else on budget priorities? Next up, we are looking at an executive session for consultation with the city attorney on privilege matters. And before us, we have a motion stating that the city council recess into executive session for the purpose of consultation with the city attorney for matters privileged pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 for a period of 20 minutes. The executive session will include the city administrator and city attorney. The open meeting will resume at 6:29. Would somebody care to make that motion? Councilman Bai moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Wilkins seconds. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move into executive session.
Sorry, Laura. Sorry, Finn. I gotta remove you.
It's okay.
Set.
Report him
I'm
if
gonna- Yeah, right. Stop.
Getting dark in here.
It's really in the dark.
I'm still here.
Giving him the mushroom treatment.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I don't have my room light on, that's why it's so dark.
Well, I don't know if they're
I can turn it on.
if they want to come back in, they'll have to rejoin the meeting. I had to boot them totally to keep Barney on, so.
Okay, we are back in open session. Let the record state that there was no action taken during the executive session. And now I'm going to turn it over to the Public Building Commission Chair, Blake By, for a Public Building Commission meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor. Got 3 items on the agenda tonight. First one is the approval of minutes from our June 4th, 2024 meeting. Did all of you receive copies of the minutes? Okay. Would anyone care to, is there any corrections or anything to the minutes? I know that was kind of far back, but.
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
Hearing none, I'll take a motion to accept the minutes from the June 2024 meeting.
Actually, there's going to be one correction on here. She's got the mayor listed as the person who'd be signing off on that. It'll actually be you, sir.
Be me.
So we'll
Okay.
make that adjustment.
So approve the minutes with the adjustment to myself signing the minutes. Okay,
I'll motion it.
motion. We have a second.
Second.
A second. Hearing anything else, Barney?
Go.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll do we pull the council or is it just
You can do a voice vote on
we'll
that.
just do or I don't even know what you call it.
Voice vote.
Voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. We'll then move to our second item, consideration of an LOI with Hillsboro Community Hospital, Mr. Stuff.
Thank you, sir. So I've sent out a copy of that LOI for you guys to review ahead of time. So what this effectively does is an agreement with, well, it's a letter of intent, so it's non-binding at this point. But what it would do is start the process whereby we would refinance the debt of RHG, who's the hospital operator under the Public Building Commission, and thereby eliminating, refinancing their debt, eliminating the Bank of Hayes, who has the loan currently for the property. And then it would also refinance our existing bonds that we have a principal of $935,000 with them through the Public Building Commission. So kind of grouping those two things together, just a little bit over 700, it'd be about $700,000 or 7 million, excuse me, $7 million in bonds. So what that does is lower their interest costs and refinances their portion of that. It would, obviously there's some risk to the city doing that. We're assuming going to be about a 6% interest rate on that. It would move we got somebody there. Oh, Laura, sorry. We'll wait for her to come in. Okay, Laura's back. So what, just to kind of recap, the LOI with the hospital would be to refinance their debt with the Bank of Hayes and the existing PVC debt into one PVC issuance, whereby the city would be the only debtor in this case with the hospital. We anticipate that being a 6%. We're able to readjust the current amortization schedule for that, which right now is pretty favorable for the hospital, because we end up paying more on the bond payments than they pay us in rent. And so we'd be able to adjust that, as part of that. And then there would be a sublease that we would negotiate with the hospital, RHG, and so that there would be an opportunity to have that conversation with them and renegotiate that lease. I don't know if there's anything you'd want to add to that. It was pretty basic. It's
Yeah.
non-binding at this point, but start that
Yeah,
process.
This would just be because we've kind of come to some basic terms with the hospital, move forward, we'll just get the process started and you know, there will be back in front of you at least 2 or 3 more times. So there's plenty of opportunities to discuss.
Okay.
So yeah,
Questions?
what we're looking for here is accepting the LOI with RHG, which is Rural Hospital Group, and beginning that process.
You guys have any questions?
I do have a quick question. Will we be setting aside executive sessions to discuss like any revisions to the LOI or anything? Because Andrew said we'll have multiple opportunities to.
I just mean in the bond process, there
Okay.
will be at least 2 or 3 times where these items will come back in front of the PBC for approval
Okay.
before we're actually issuing debt. So
Okay. Alrighty.
Yeah, I mean, if there is a scenario which executive session would be the appropriate means to have that conversation, then yes, we could do that. Otherwise, it will be public,
Okay.
public facing.
All right, gotcha. Then I will make the motion.
no.
No.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I take that back.
I revoke your.
Yeah, thank you.
Does anyone care? Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to approve the LOI with Hillsboro Community Hospital.
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Lou. Motions, do we have a second? Second. Okay. Is there any other questions? Anything? Nope. Okay, hearing none. Do we need to poll the council or voice vote?
Yeah, I would pull them on this one.
Okay, we'll start with Mayor Lou.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay.
Yes.
Barney?
Aye.
Is that?
Yep.
Okay,
Well, you can vote on this too, right?
Yeah, you can.
I'm gonna vote aye. Motion carries. And we will do the LOI with Hillsboro Community Hospital.
Sorry.
Alright.
Forgot I could motion.
Next up, we have a consideration of a request from Salem Home for $2.5 million in PBC bonds for HVAC replacement. Your style.
Yes, sir. So we've received a request from Salem Home to help them by issuing a public building commission bond for the replacement of their HVAC system in the tune of about $2.5 million. So this would be a PBC bond. So what that does effectively is put the city or the Public Building Commission, excuse me, in the middle of that transaction, effectively using the credit of the Public Building Commission to help issue the bonds in order to lower the interest rate. There's some risk involved with that. So if there was something that would go awry with them or, they didn't meet their tax compliance issues that revolve around the tax exempt financing, then the city would have some risk involved with that issuance. There are a couple other options with regard to this. That this is, of course, the less expensive option for them. It reduces the rate the most. There is also a qualified 501c3 industrial revenue bond option. I want to make sure I get all that out. Which the PBC could issue, which any
City would issue
city
directly.
directly.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's what you, yeah, like I get confused. So yeah, then this is something we have done in the past for Parkside Homes. And we would do probably for any qualified 501c3. It'd be an option for anybody out there that meets those qualifications. It will reduce their interest cost. It would still be a tax exempt issuance, so there would be some reduction in interest costs compared to going out and buying getting a commercial loan for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not technically what they've asked for here, but I think that would be an option that you could present to them. And then they also have the option, if you were to say, no, we're not going to do this at all, you could also look at, they could look at a commercial loan, which I know they have a couple offers on. So As far as that goes, I think the response to them would be, up to your determination how you want to respond to them on this. Staff's recommendation would be looking, suggesting the qualified 501c3 industrial revenue bond option. That still saves them some money, and then puts them in a more advantageous position as far as making that debt. There are some requirements with that. There are tax requirements that they will have to meet, any tax exempt issuance. And so that will be something that they'll have to do, and they may get a look at that and say, no, we don't want to do that. And I don't know if Andrew wants to talk about what those things are. There's
In broad categories, they are restrictions on how the proceeds of the bonds are invested and how they're spent on the project. As long as they spend it within a certain period of time, they're usually pretty safe. But then on an ongoing basis, there are restrictions on how the property will be used to ensure that there's not private inurement to for-profit entities. And so there are contractual obligations and all kinds of use restrictions that go along with tax exempt bonds that you just have to get comfortable with if you want to take advantage of that. That's the facility, not the city. Obviously, the city does it all the time, but yeah.
Also, so an industrial revenue bond, just so that you know, is the city takes technically as the titled owner of it. There's a lease agreement back to the person, but the risk isn't really associated with the city.
Right. And in IRB, the city acts as what's generally called a conduit issuer, and they are industrial revenue bonds, meaning unlike a PBC bond where the PBC and the city are required to make those payments out of their, almost general obligation funds. Industrial revenue bond means you only pay it if the Salem Home pays it. And so the risk is considerably less to the city. Salem Home doesn't make its payment. The city's not technically on the hook for that.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that the city inform Salem Home that we would support issuance of an IRB, but not issuance of public building commission bonds.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. With that, let's poll the council. Mayor Luke,
Aye.
Councilman Jorgensen,
Aye.
Councilman.
Aye.
I can't remember. Thank you on your last
brother.
name, Wilkins.
Aye.
Councilman Councilman McCarty.
Yes.
Okay.
Aye.
And I will say aye as well. With
Yeah.
that motion, with the aye.
We'll make that
IRB.
notification.
There you go.
And that is, and with that, I will close the Public Building Commission and turn back over to Mayor Luke.
All right, next up, we have a land bank meeting. And first item up under our land bank is approval of the minutes of the May 6, 2025 meeting. Did everyone receive copies of the minutes? Any questions or corrections regarding these minutes? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to adopt the minutes as submitted.
Motion.
Councilman Wilkins moves. Councilman By seconds. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then the real item is approval of land bank vouchers totaling $1,525. Mr. Stiles, any comments there? It looks like mowing.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll be seeing these every month from here on out.
Yep, it has started.
Mowing, yeah.
Any questions? Hearing none, I accept a motion to approve the land bank vouchers totaling $1,525 for payment.
I'll make that motion.
Councilman By moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Jorgensen seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we are now, Mr. Stiles, at long last, at your report opportunity, which it looks like there may be an item or two there to talk about.
Yeah, there's a few things. Yeah, so I just wanted to talk. I know Crystal mentioned the child care center, and we've got a few things I think we're going to get resolved with the contractor on that. And then the board's going to finish up some stuff. And then we're hopefully going to get our license from KDHE. There's a couple things yet to be established there, hoping to get everything open in June. Pre-enrollment been real successful. We've got 51 kids already signed up, which is awesome. It's about half of a center's capacity. And we're anticipating, based on kind of the ratios and how the rooms lay out, that the infant room, one of the toddler rooms, and one of the early preschool rooms will be completely full by December. So we're already running out of capacity on the infant side. We have to rethink that. That's a good problem to have, I guess. But Director Micah is doing a great job looking at staff. I know they were still interviewing staff, I think this week yet, trying to get that all hammered out. So we're racing toward that June opening at some point. So just in time because Kids Connection shut down, I think last week. So Orchard Ridge groundbreaking. We got that project really moving forward. We're gonna get the closing scheduled, I think, for June 5th, or no, June 6th, Friday, June 6th. Had a pre-construction meeting last week, and so I think we got everything kind of hammered out on that, and they're gonna expect to begin construction within 2 weeks of the closing, so sometime in the middle of June. We're working on getting a groundbreaking ceremony scheduled for that, so we'll get you gold shovels and hard hats, and we'll take some pictures. It'll be fun. That'll be a good time, and that of course I'll get going on that, and they're anticipating having units open by the end of this year, so we're moving on that.
Oh.
It's a good time. Lincoln and Wilson Street, we're gonna do a pre-bid meeting on that June the 4th at 7. So we're sending out letters this week to everybody on those streets, let them bring them back in, show them the plans as they sit right now. If there's any adjustments that need to be made from their perspective, we'll have that conversation at that point, and then hopefully get those out for bid here shortly so that we can get that project finally moving. Golf course mowers had some issues. We had a lot of equipment issues. Basically, anything that could go wrong with a golf course mower went wrong the last 2 weeks.
Nice.
So we've had a lot of breakdowns. We found a replacement. We actually bought it today. It was from Jonathan Maxfield. Actually, has a giant. I don't know where he got it. A giant fairway mower, in good condition, and we were able to get it from him relatively inexpensively. And then we're gonna have to sharpen the rails on it, but that's not a big deal. And then we're also looking at some new equipment or investing in maybe a lease program, sort of like what we did with fleet management. I think that would be the best route to go with this because these are high-hour pieces of equipment. Golf course mowers, they get the tar beat out of them. And so that might be something that's going to be coming up to you too. Lehigh Township letters, I mentioned last time after our meeting with them that they want to renegotiate our agreement. So we suggested to them that they have a public input session, which they have now scheduled for May 27th. We're gonna extend the summer kickoff barbecue invitation to everybody. That's going to be this Friday at noon, Scout House. It's going to be amazing. We got some good food. We tasked the police and fire department with coming up with desserts and sides, and they will not disappoint you, I promise.
Nice.
So hope to see you there. Hope you can join us. Health insurance savings report there for you. Kind of a lower savings month for us, $5,800 for the month. Year to date, still $36,000 compared to a fully insured plan. Again, we're on an 18-month stretch right now with our employees. So I'd actually expect to see the savings amounts to go down a little bit as we get toward the end of the year, as we're having to pay more out on those. But I still think we're in pretty good shape with that. We've got a balance of $96,000 in our reserve fund, and we only really need to be about 80, so we're in good shape. KPP bill there for you to look at. We got a negative cost adjustment, energy cost adjustment, so that'll actually decrease our costs there. Went down from the previous year, got a few things off book. Want to remind you about our strategic planning meeting next Tuesday at 6:30. We'll have dinner for you, so come ready to talk. We're actually going to shut down the public survey that we've had out on that tomorrow. So right now I've got about 20 responses, hoping to get a couple more. We'll push it back out one more time, but I'm going to shut that down and then get you that information as it comes through. Planning Commission is going to meet next week. We're going to do approval of the final AMPI plat, and we got a fence regulation we need to talk about. Thursday, I'm going to be at the Network Kansas conference in Wichita. So if you need me, you can get me by phone. Update on 13 Mile Road project, Friday.
Oh,
Ooh,
okay.
Gonna open her up on Friday.
which Friday?
This Friday.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Ribbon cutting.
Yeah, I think they ought to be. Assuming that the seating got finished today, it'll be open on Friday. And the last thing is kind of a sad note. Well, it's a bittersweet note. Our own Laura Paulus is going to be leaving the Free Press as the editor-in-chief and going back to the therapy realm, which
Nice.
might need some after today, but really appreciate Laura's coverage and has been a really good person to work with over the years, and happy that she's got this opportunity to go and enjoy that which is her calling in life. So we will miss her. We don't know what the future looks like, but we're hoping that everything kind of keeps moving forward. But she will be missed, and so we want to give that acknowledgement. And that is all I have, sir.
Hey. All right, one final opportunity for public comment. I don't see any public members of the public online nor in the room. So we'll close that final public comment opportunity and go to council comments. Today we'll start with Councilman McCarty. You've been patient with us back there, and any comments, sir?
I have nothing. No comments.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get better soon, will you?
Your autograph.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, there will.
Autograph
And-
newspapers.
Would refer to the Free Press this week. We got a really nice article about Councilman McCarty in there and his service to this country. So we appreciate that very much. And we appreciate the way he's served the city for, faithfully for 52 years.
Yeah.
If I did the math correct.
Been a while.
Yeah.
Okay, next Councilman Jorgensen.
Yeah, just very quickly, I'd like to show my appreciation for the officers who participated in the chase last Tuesday, Officer Hebert and Funk, and just everything that they're well, and I appreciate their participation in that.
Councilman Wilkins.
On top of that note, really quick, I'd just like to extend just gratitude to just all of our staff. I mean, we have a great bunch here, and what they do to keep the city going, I don't know if we can say thank you enough. So just appreciate it, and we'll miss Laura. I believe Laura has actually snapped a picture of me and my family every single year for the paper.
You can
So
put them on the wall. You kind of track your kids through.
just wish you the best. You'll be missed. That is it, sir.
Okay, Councilman Bai.
I have nothing to add, but I am gonna miss you, Laura. But I do live down the street from you, so don't go too far. That's it.
Okay, is there any other business that needs to come before the council? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.
Woo!
Woo.
Night all.
That might be.
Thanks, Barney.
That's gonna be
Yeah.
the longest.
Under what?
Under
no,
three.
Number 3.
Yeah, we're into